the early disciples, they didn't have money like that. They couldn't use parchment or vellum. That's why they were forced to write on papyrus. And as soon as they wrote, they sent it out to different churches, and that was copied upon copies upon copies. And that's why there's no way in the world that we would expect to have the originals. Why? Because they were written on papyri. Now let's ask the same question of Islam. These men were in the caliphal courts. They were there with Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman. These are caliphs who controlled, well, at that time, all the way from Turkey down to Yemen, from Tripoli all the way to what is today Afghanistan. They controlled a large piece of land. They controlled some of the greatest metropolises. They controlled some of the greatest literary places like Damascus, and they controlled Jerusalem, and they controlled Cairo, and they controlled Ctesiphon, which became Baghdad. And in every one of these places, there was libraries, there was literature, these were secretaries. And these guys in the caliphal courts, according to what the traditions, they were there in Medina, and therefore they would have not needed to use papyrus like the early church had to use. They would have had parchment, and they would have had vellum at their disposal. So the question I ask you, looking at the two different genres, looking at the two different ages, looking at the two different groups, the Christians on this side only had papyri to work on. The Muslims on this side had parchment and vellum, animal skins. Who do you think should have the best material for us to look at?
The one with the leather one, because they had all that. And even in Sahih Bukhari 4987 and Sahih Bukhari 4988 and Mishkat 2221 actually talks about them writing on leather of animal skins. So we get from the hadiths that they had leather skins. So
where
by
are
definition,
they? Where are they?
We can't find them.
Remember in the 2014 debate that I had with Shabirari, did I not ask this question? Where, according to your traditions, according to Sahih Bukhari, volume 6, hadith number 510, it says that Uthman woke up Zayd ibn Thabit. He'd been asleep for 20 years. I'm joking, of course. And he says, get that copy, and that was given to Hafsa, which, according to some traditions, she left under her bed, had been left for 20 years, and rewrite the Qur'an in the Qurayshi dialect. And then he sent 5 copies. Some say it may be more, but let's just go with 5 because that's what most Muslims claim today. 5 copies to 5 cities: Mecca, Medina, Basra, Baghdad at that time. Well, it really wasn't Baghdad yet, but let's just say Baghdad and Damascus. So those are the 5 cities. And the reason he sent them to those 5 cities is so that they would never be changed again. Because remember, Udaifa had been up in Azerbaijan. He had been battling against the Azerbaijanis. They won the battle. They had gone to the mosque to celebrate it and do their prayers. And there were other Muslims there from Damascus and from Iraq. And as they were listening to the prayers, they heard different recitations of the Quran, and they started fighting with each other. And Udaifa came back down to complain to Uthman that we must never have different Qurans. I heard different recitations of Qurans that is not the same as what we recite. We must make sure we standardize it, and that's why they did it. They standardized the text for the Quran itself in 652, sent to 5 cities. Okay, Adam, there should be 5 copies of those Uthmanic recensions. Can you tell me where there's one today?
You're asking me a question that even the most well-educated historian Muslims are not able to find.
Dayal Altukulich and Ekmel Sanulu, both of them, when they wrote their book on the Musaf al-Sharif, which came out in 2007, had said categorically, there are no Uthmanic recensions. We don't have any of them.
Exactly. So not even a single historian who is even a Muslim was not able to find out these 5 Musafs, which is kind of an amazing.
Adam, this is the greatest book in the history of mankind, according to Islam. This is the final revelation. This is the one that just 1,400 years ago was standardized into one text and sent to 5 cities, and they can't find even one of them.